Hey YouTube, it's Emma Blue Eyes 10 here, and this is a video response to Kisame Unlimited making a video about net decking on the Underground members channel. I hope you guys enjoy, because I've come to realise that my views on net decking have changed as well, so that's why I'm doing this as a video response. It was interesting to see Kisame Unlimited, how his thoughts and opinions have changed on net decking over the past year or so, because I did a video about net decking about a year or so as well, as a kind of response to how everybody else was doing one, and I mean, some of my opinions have changed and others haven't, so I thought I'd kind of do this redo video basically, and hope you guys enjoy. Okay, net decking. Net decking is classified in the world of Yu-Gi-Oh! As just basically copying a winning deck card for card, basically. Some people say if you change a few cards, then you're personalizing it in a way, and in some way I can see that, I can agree with that in some way, because, you know, as Kisame says, like, there's the majority of there's a theme cards of the deck, which is about 20 or so cards, then your staples, which is about 10 cards, and then the last 10 or 5 cards are sort of tech cards and player preference cards on making the engines of decks work better and combos work better and such as well. So, I mean, I can understand that side now. I mean, before I would say, like, just changing just a few cards doesn't make any difference, it's still the same deck, but now I can see, because they're different tech cards on player preference and everything, then obviously new combos are found that way, and how it goes. And that leads me to the first good thing about net decking, which I still agree on, that it is good for the game in that it inspires creative thinking, and that it allows new winning combos and new decks and everything to be made. For example, I think a classic example I could give of decks being combined together or something to make a more deadly deck is the Tech Genis Agents. Agents on their own were a pain in the neck. The Tech Genis were okay, I believe they were, but the engine of them was pretty good, and combined them with the controlling power of the fairies, and obviously you've got a deadly deck there, which is very interesting to say the least. But as I said, and also as I said, the last 10 or 5 cards in a deck that are a person's choice for putting in tech cards and everything, a lot of people will still use sort of the same sort of cards that other decks use. Others will prefer other kind of tech decks, and there's some people who will try completely new tech cards and eventually find a winning combo among them, and hence that combo will then be copied by other winning decks because it's so good and that it can win games, or it can stop the opponent from doing certain things and everything. So I mean, so that's a good side of net decking, in that it can encourage creative thinking, it can encourage new combos, new strategies and things like that, and I don't see anything wrong with that at all. And the other good thing about net decking is it's very good for introducing players to the competitive side of Yu-Gi-Oh! Now, players who are quite new to the game obviously will determine whether or not they want to play for just fun as a hobby, or if they want to play competitively and get into the big top tournaments by Konami and everything. And as I said, there's nothing wrong with introducing them to the competitive side via net decking, because it teaches them how a deck's engine should work, how the draw power should go, how tech cards should be considered. And it can still have fun with it as well, especially if there's an archetype theme, or if there's a fun theme within the deck itself. And then after that, the player is introduced to it via that way can decide of 3 things. They can decide just to go competitive completely. They can decide to go in the middle, like me and a lot of other people do, and, you know, we play for fun but we can play competitively as well. Or they might just not like the competitive side at all and just decide to stick with fun, everyday kitchen dueling, I suppose I should call it, really. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that as well. As I said, so those 2 views haven't really changed on net decking. It is good for the game, because it keeps the game, obviously keeps the game interesting and everything as well. I suppose the more bad side of Yu-Gi-Oh! Is that, well, I suppose the only actual bad thing about the actual net decking itself is that if people use the same sort of decks over and over again, obviously the meta can become predictable, and it can become, in some sense, a little bit boring, obviously, if you're going up against the same sort of decks over and over again. But in saying that, I mean, nowadays we've got about 10-15 different decks that run about in the meta, roughly. We've got, like, Some people are still playing Insectors and Chaos Dragons, and we've got Dino Rabbit, Wind Up, Six Samurai, Dark World, Plants, Agents might be making a comeback, Black Wings, Light Sworn, and that sort of thing. Obviously there's like a lot more decks nowadays in the meta than there was 5 years ago. Now mind you, I never played in the meta 5-6 years ago, so I've got no idea what it was like back then, but apparently to a lot of people who have played back then, there was only like really 3 or 4 top decks that were constantly being played all the time. But now, because there's so many, as I said, you can go against something different nearly every game. However, there's always going to be like the top 5 or so that obviously do better than the other 5 or so decks, and they're going to be the ones used most of the time. So as I said, in that sense it can get a little bit boring and predictable when that happens, but in general the net decking side has got a much wider diverse, I would say, than it had several years ago. The other bad side of net decking, well, it's actually, if I think about it now, I think this is the biggest opinion change I've had really. The biggest change, I think, is that the actual art of net decking, or the actual act of net decking itself, isn't bad. It's the person who's using the deck that can cause the problem. For example, somebody who has the time and money to spend X amount on a meta deck that wins all the time, and then uses their wealth and position or whatever as an excuse to bully or to intimidate or to downgrade other duelists who don't have the same deck as them. I think that is wrong. I still think that is very wrong, in all honesty, because obviously Yu-Gi-Oh is an expensive game, and don't quote me on this, but I heard somebody say if you want to make a really good meta deck in order to play competitively and all that, you need to spend about £400–500 on it, roughly. And considering with cards like Tour Guide and Pot of Duality, I mean, when they were at their peaks several years ago, they were like worth £150 each. Obviously that's understandable why some decks are that expensive. Obviously for players who really want to do very well in tournaments and get to like the top championships and everything, obviously you'd want to get the best cards you can afford, and I can completely understand that. If you want to, get the best deck you feel comfortable with and feel happy with and know can get you very far, then obviously I have nothing wrong with that. It's only when a few people develop that kind of attitude, like I've got a £400 deck, I can completely do this to you, or I've got £150 worth of this in my deck, or I've got a really expensive card that you haven't, I'm gonna tease you, bully you and things like that. That's the kind of thing I don't like at all. And the other side of net decking that I still don't, well, it's not really net decking, it's really the person attitude behind it really, is just basically talking trash to people when they don't play the exact same deck as you, or you see a deck that is somewhat different from the meta side. For example, I'd probably just say Blue Eyes Dragons really, because a lot of meta players who see my deck for the first time are always surprised I don't run Red Eyes Darkness Metal Dragon. I mean, obviously it's been hit by the ban list now, so a lot of Dragon players are very upset that that big shot card has gone and that they can't use it as effectively as they did before. But I just never run. I didn't predict it or anything, but I kind of guessed one day if Dragons ever became meta, then that card would be hit. So if I got too attached to it, it would obviously just, go down the drain with my deck. So I built my deck in a different way where I still have fun, I still play with the cards I want to play, but it can still do really well at tournaments in some ways. And it's kind of funny, I've had somebody joke that they were going to net deck my entire deck once, and I was like, yeah, okay, fine, whatever. But as I said, it's just the attitude. I think it's not, as I said, it's not the actual act of net decking itself that's bad, it's the person behind it. There's also the scenarios where people will net deck an entire deck and expect it to win them every single game, and then they get really upset and frustrated and really angry at the fact that they may have lost a game due to the other person being better than them, or a fluke or a misplay that they did. And of course they use that loss as an excuse to bully or to intimidate or do whatever to somebody else, which again I feel is very, very wrong. I mean, that's just being a bully basically. So yeah, so that's kind of my views on net decking, how it's changed and everything. I mean, as I said, the good side of it hasn't really changed. I still agree with that net decking can be good for the game. It still is good for the game, and that with the bad side of it, as I keep saying, it's not the actual act of it, it's the person behind it. If the person doesn't know how to work the deck properly and they get frustrated or angry that they lose or make a mistake and use it as an excuse to bully, or they think because that they've got an expensive winning deck that they have the right to do whatever, then obviously that's not right at all. At all for the game, because obviously it's those few people who can actually ruin someone else's day, and that's not very fair. So yeah, but in general, I'm not as against net decking as I was a year or so ago. I mean, back then I was a really passionate young player. Well, not young, I was 21, 22? 22, well, so I can't remember, 21, 22, round about there. I'm getting old, yes, get used to it. So yeah, in general, I'm not as against net decking as I used to be. I can see its benefits for the game and everything, and I don't see it as a evil of the game anymore. It's just the people behind the deck that can cause the problem, really. So yeah. But anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed that. So that's my thoughts and opinions on net decking as a video response to Kisame Unlimited to Underground members. Hope you enjoyed, and take care, play the game, and see you later. Bye!